Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview truly incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, I'm in the thick of it, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend Corey Parchman. He is a business leader, a husband, father, author. He played college and professional football, and he has taken the skills and struggles of life and wakes up every day to make the world a better place. His focus is on helping men discover how important their role is to love, lead, and serve. And he has created truly an incredible all boys preschool. I can't wait for you to hear about it. So when you think of a man who's investing in men, he is starting with young boys who are toddlers. Enjoy meeting my friend, Corey. All right, let's go. Corey Parchman, welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I'm a big fan of the show. So I'm looking forward to this episode.
Love it, dude. Me too. You know, it's so funny. 15 minutes ago, if you saw me, I'm running around my house like a crazy man with work and a house full of kids and whatever. And then as soon as I see your face, we're about to hit record. I'm like, just deep breath, dude. Let's talk fatherhood. Let's go. So my first question for you right out the gate here is, how old do you find yourself today?
I feel 46 and feeling great. Yeah, definitely. And there's a number of reasons why that I don't get too sad to begin with. My dad passed when I was 39. So I always said to myself, if I live past 39, I'm going to live forever. So I'm 46 now. So feeling good and happy about it.
Yeah. Okay. So your dad passed about 7 years ago.
No. It's 89. He was 39. I was 9 years old at the time.
Oh, I see. You weren't 39. That's right. You weren't 39. He was 39. Wow. Okay.
He was 39. Yeah. Yeah. And I was 9 years old. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Had you always kind of looked at 39 as like not a worry, but like a man, that's possible? I don't know. Did that stick with you?
So he passed and he was 39. I mean, 39 in 7 months. So I had it exactly down to the month that if I made it past this point right here, I was going to be all right. So 39 and 7 months, and I made it past that point. It was like, okay, I'm going to be all right.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, interesting. Well, we'll come back and I'll ask you some questions about him later. Corey, how many years you been married?
I'm married 3 years now. Yep, 3 years.
3 years. And then how many kiddos do you have?
Just one. Just the one kid, Corey Jr. was born November 21st, 2024.
All right. So we're coming up on 1 year quick here. Oh my gosh, dude, congratulations. That's amazing. And I know, big thing that we'll talk about in the show today in the conversation is about the book you wrote about some of that journey and IVF. So looking forward to that. But a couple initial questions. Where do you guys do life? Where do you live?
Carmel, Indiana. So Indiana, the Midwest is our hometown.
Okay, love it. And then what do you do in a minute or two? What is it that you do to provide value out in the world and feed the family?
Real estate development and VP of a organization called Fathers and Families, work with dads. But, trying to figure out how I can make this world a better place. I've been fortunate enough to have opportunities and resources. So my goal now is to figure out how I can make this world a better place. So that's my focus.
I love it. So if you were to if we were to step into Corey at 90 years old, what's the thing, if we were sitting here talking, that you would say, I was able to accomplish this or invest in this or spend time doing X, Y, or Z? What would that thing be that would make you feel like you made this world a better place?
Open up my all boys preschool in Indianapolis. That was the thing that I've held on to, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do. And it to transform kids' lives at an early age, especially ones who may have not had a male role model in their lives. That's been my greatest, other than my son and my wife. That thing right there has been great to me. It's over the NFL. Like being able to open up a preschool has been better than the feeling I had when I made the NFL.
When did you open up that preschool?
2017.
Wow. And what was the purpose of it being an all boys preschool?
Yeah. What something I noticed early was a lot of kids struggle with early child education. A lot of kids go to their grandma's house or their friend's house or whatever to go to for preschool, and when they get in kindergarten, they're often behind. And then the teacher spends years trying to get them caught up. But what happens is they don't get caught up. And each year they get behind more and more and more and more. So by the time they're in third or fourth grade, they're not doing third or fourth grade stuff. They're doing second and first grade stuff. So they're always behind. So that was one aspect of it. The other aspect of it was a lot of our kids don't often see positive male role models, whatever reason. So I want to introduce that to them. So academics and positive male role models. But also I wanted to make sure that kids knew that they can be great without playing professional sports. When I grew up, the end all be all was I want to be a pro athlete. So we didn't talk about anything pro athlete in my school. We talked about engineer, doctors, lawyers. So I want to expose those boys to more than just being athletes. Being athletes great and it's amazing. And as you see, it was great for me. But I want to make sure that they know that it's more out there than just an athlete.
Corey, I love this dude. This is so epic, right? Because I believe, right? Like I truly believe that men have so much power to impact our world. And I know we'll talk about it, but a lot of us are just kind of like sitting back, not. And and then those of us who are, I think prison ministry is great. I think being a pastor or being a business leader or high school ministry, all these things are fantastic. But what I love that you're doing is like, yo, let's go way back and let's start at preschool. Let's start at let's think generationally. And even that, I mean, you're thinking, okay, I'm thinking about the next generation of doctors, engineers, some of the things you said. Let's start with these 3, 4, and 5 year olds because, dude, that's when their mindset is shaped about reality. Like, what's possible? What's the world all about, dude? I think that right there. I mean, whether it's one preschool or if we could open 1,000 of them, I think what a beautiful thought. Because I never heard of an all boys preschool. I mean, is that normal?
I know it's the first one ever in the country, and one thing I did was I wanted to put my name on it, Corey Parchman. I wanted them to know that this was a stand-up guy who was creating something that was positive. I knew that sometimes you may get a stigma with it, but I knew if I put my name behind it and me behind it, I knew it was a guy. Once they looked me up, that he was sincere in his goal of making it.
Ooh, you know what? I think that that's really powerful. And it's nothing against the moms or the women. Like they are definitely, they've been carrying the weight. But I will say, I think that there's a different weight to say, hey, here's a a strong male leader leading the charge behind this, and not like a group of moms who are like, our boys need special attention, and I'm kind of playing with that a little bit, but I think it's really important. So dude, kudos. And I hope that scales or transfers to other men. Yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah, and and really good. The moms are amazing. I mean, moms are 99% of the journey. You know this. At the same time, there has to be a balance. Everything else in life has a balance, right? So, with moms, it's a matter of they do an amazing job. At the same time, it's add another aspect of another personality, another thought process, another way of doing things. So I wanted to add that piece to our school. So once I talk to the moms, and I tell the moms all the time that, not all of them were single moms, but the ones that were, that, I'm not here to replace you. You're doing an amazing job. But at the same time, let's work together and see if we can be a partnership and put this kid in an amazing place. And also, I mean, it's a little bit biased because I had an amazing dad. So I'm like, any kid that doesn't have a dad, hey, come see me. I'm going to try my best to put them in a position that I had. Like I said, my dad died when I was 9, but I literally learned so much that I still apply to this day in those short 9 years.
Wow. Well, since you brought it up, let me ask that, and then maybe we'll circle back a little bit. But I typically ask my guests, what's something you really appreciated about your dad, and then what's something you wish your dad did differently. You can answer whatever you want, however you want, but pretty impactful to say my dad had a major impact on my life, and he passed away when I was 9. So, how would you answer that question? What's something that sticks out to you from your dad?
Well, applying Christian values initially in my life was very, very, very important. And I remember one time, I'll make a quick short story real quick. I was, they wanted to give us free lunch at school. So they gave me paperwork. They said, take this home to your parents. They'll sign it for you. You'll get free lunch. And I took it home smiling, jumping. Hey, I got a free lunch, Dad. And he ripped it up. And he said, you don't get free lunch. I pay for your lunch. And it taught me right there that, you know what, you work for what you get. Nothing's free. You work for it. So those things right there in such a short time, and I could tell you, I could go on for an next hour, talk about those things like that shape me right now. So I'll pass it on to the kids at my school, but also my son too, that you work what you get. It's the way things are. You know, you figure it out and you work. That's okay to ask for help. But first, figure out if you can do it yourself and try to put a plan together. And then if you need help, it's okay for help. But the first instinct should be, let me try to figure it out myself.
Yeah. So good. So I'm listening to an interesting book right now. It's called 38 Letters from John D. Rockefeller to His Kid.
I read that book. I read it. Yep. I read it and listened to the audiobook.
Okay, so I'm listening to the audiobook while I'm doing some projects around the house, and I've been in it like the last 3-4 days. And that was like one of the things is there's no free lunch, right? He was just talking about this statement. There's no free lunch. And it's interesting because we do kind of live in a society where we're all kind of looking in for handouts or like an easy route. But that small thing taught you so much, right? And who knows, you were 7, 8 years old, something like this, and your dad rips this up. And at that moment, like, I mean, that just ingrained hard work matters.
Yes, that's the same thing I want to instill in my child because, of course, my son's gonna have this because my wife, his mom is a doctor. You know, I'm a former professional athlete, so the world's gonna be a little bit different for him. But at the same time, this is things we've done to get here. You know, you landed on third base, but you have to figure out how to create your own space and work hard to get there.
Yeah, so good. Okay, and then anything you would have changed about how your dad showed up for you in those early years?
Without a doubt, him not passing away when I was 9 years old, man. If I could change that, oftentimes my wife, so we've been married 3 years now, but she didn't realize that every time something great happens to me, I have to look back like my dad's not here. And so I was just inducted into the public schools hall of fame. That was probably the first time she saw me like a situation where I was awarded something great, but then I broke down and cried because it's like, damn, my dad's not here. So this is something that happens every single time something great happens to me. It's like, yeah, my dad's not here. So sometimes I wish that God would have waited a little bit, but far be it me to question the Lord's wisdom. So I kind of just figure out and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you handle that at 9 years old? What would you say is the positive and what was the hard? I mean, obviously it's hard. Your dad passes away, but what are a couple of things that stick out to you from that season?
I will say definitely my church family helped us out a lot, being a support system there. At the same time, what I want to start, I've never done it before, I've always thought about it, was start a bereavement camp for kids. And what I mean by that is oftentimes when kids are bereaved or going through something, adults often think, well, I'm going to do what's best for you, and never ask the kid, what do you think? Because they think, well, you're 9 years old, you don't know. But yeah, you do know. So I wanted to give, kids an open space to express how they feel while they're going through it. But I also give them a chance to think because my dad died when I was 9, I thought I was the only kid in the entire world who lost a dad at 9 years old. So it would have been nice to bring other kids who were going through the same experience or something similar to it at that age. So those are two things. One, just be able to express yourself and openly, but also knowing that you're not alone in this world.
Yes, that's so good. So, dads listening, Corey's already given two incredible ideas, and there's enough kids out there who need it. But an all boys preschool, go start one in your own town, or a bereavement camp for kids who have lost their father who need a male role model in their lives.
And if you want to start a preschool, I will give you my entire business plan, blueprint, free of charge. It's not about me making money. It's about me putting a plan together and saying, hey, if you want to do this, hey, here go the blueprint. Here go every sheet you need, every process, procedure to go do it.
Man, I love that, dude. That's beautiful. Okay, Corey, leaning into fatherhood, what would you say the role of the father is?
To fill in the gaps, my wife is great. She's amazing in saying that, okay, you know, at the end of the day, I don't care what you have, an organization, a team, whatever, you need a leader. Everyone can't be the lead. You don't have one quarterback. You have one CEO for the most part. So my wife is okay saying you're the CEO of the family. So it's being the CEO of our family, but also filling the gaps that's needed and figuring out, the spaces need the most assistance. And it's called leading from behind. I'm not like with my chest pumped out. I'm the leader. It's more so saying my wife, my family needs support. My son needs this. So figuring things out. So getting out of my own way. I'm not insecure about anything. So I don't care what anyone thinks. So it's a matter of me saying what's best for my family, not what anyone thinks. That what I would say is the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, two things really stick out to me. Like, one, I think sometimes when we say leader or CEO, we kind of think like the guy in the spotlight. And that's not what you're saying at all. You know, when you say fill in the gaps, it's like when we walk into a room, are we thinking, how can these people serve me? Or are we thinking, how can I serve them? Right. So as a father, you really got to step back and look for those gaps, right? Look for the areas that need support. So I love that. Love that. And then what was the other thing that you had said there at the end?
And also, like I said, it's not being insecure about who I am. So, despite what anyone says, it's like, well, this is what's best for my family, best for my family. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really important is knowing what's best for your family, right? But that means you have to be in tune with your family and more concerned with their well-being than what the neighbor thinks or what the neighbor's doing, right? Because God gave you your wife and your kid and he entrusted you with them and you got to give an account for them one day. So like, are you going to be able to, have a response to that? Um Ooh, man, I love that. Okay, I mean, you're in this like new season about what your kid's about to turn 1. Yeah, you had this lead up. So talk to me a little bit about the stepping into fatherhood, right? The finding out, okay, finally, like I don't know, share how long were you guys trying, talk about the IVF, and then talk about why you wrote the book as well.
Yeah. So, wife and I, it's male factor fertility, and we had to figure out, like, I had to go through a procedure. So I had to go through IVF and went through about 2.5 years of that. So, first of all, it was dealing with the fact that I may not have kids. So for 2.5 years, we're trying to go through this process. So what I had to say to myself is, how can I be a great person? How can I have a great marriage if it doesn't happen for us? Even though how bad I wanted to be a dad, we had to figure out if it didn't happen, we still have to have great lives and be great human beings. So, dealing with that was amazing because, when you grow up as a kid, you say you do these things, you have a kid, have a family. But then that journey wasn't for us. So, first of all, just dealing with that, okay, this may not happen for us and this may not be a dad. But then once we went through the IVF process, I was looking for outlets to help me guide me through that process. Not much out there for men. There's a ton of information out there for women, and it should be because women carry a majority of the load when it comes to IVF. But there's nothing out there for a male that says, then how do you take care of your family, your wife, but take care of yourself? Because I'm struggling too. When we have miscarriages or we have failed transfers, I'm dealing with that too. But I can't, express it like I won't. I'm sorry, like I won't because my wife is struggling because she's not only going through it physically, she's going through it mentally. And then also knowing this male factor that the reason why we even in this mess is because my inability to have kids naturally. So you deal with that guilt, and that's what a lot of men deal with when going through IVF: the guilt of to see your partner going through all this, but you're not able to do anything about it, but sit on the sideline and watch. So just learning how to be a great partner through this process is why I wrote the book because I had to learn how to do that, and I wouldn't have dare have written this book to after we were done trying because while I was going through that process, I didn't know what to think. It was such a new space for me, and I could talk to no one about it. Like, there guys aren't in the locker room talking about male fertility or talking about IVF. No one's talking about that. You're not at your favorite, restaurant having those conversations. And then, sometimes it feels embarrassing, not to me, but most men. So you feel isolated. And I didn't want to like keep my wife was open to talking any time about it, but I didn't want to keep like bothering her because she was going through it too. So you feel isolated. So I want to open up the access line for men who are going through this process, the resources to be like, you're not alone.
Hmm. So what does that look like when you're kind of in that process? I mean, what would your suggestions to a guy be? On one hand, you do want to have open communication with your wife, but then, is it like find a support group or find a friend, or what are some of the tools you would suggest?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing I would do is, and this is hear me out, learn how to be a great listener. Sometimes my wife wanted to talk about the IVF process or how she felt, and I'm getting out the pen and pad trying to put a plan together. And sometimes she's like, it's not what I want. I want you to just listen. I don't need any advice. I don't need any conversations or feedback because, as men, we tend to be fixers. She's going to be one who I'm going to figure this out and put it together. Sometimes my wife just wanted to get things out of her system and just move on. So I have to learn how to be a great listener. And that's helping me out also in my marriage now. Just
I think we could all grow in that. Yeah. Yeah.
advice is not always needed.
Yeah. That's good.
Advice is not always needed. So that's one big thing that I would give men, like just figure out. And what I would do with my wife back then, even now, when she would talk to me, I'd ask her, hey, this a conversation that you want advice, or you want me to listen? And once she told me how she felt, then I would go from there and act accordingly, depending on the conversation. So being a great listener is the main thing. Also, just trying to figure out, what's good for you. Like, what can you do outside of this to cope? Mine was riding a bike. And I've never been a bike rider a day in my life. But somehow, some way, I found out that I like riding bikes. And you know what they gave me? I put my headphones on and ride my bike. And for 45, 50 minutes, I wasn't a guy going through IVF. I was just a bike rider. So 45 minutes was a great reprieve for me to not get off my mind because going through IVF or anything like this as a male, you'll be constantly reminded. It's the red car theory. If you heard a theory like if you buy a red car, see what the red cars on the street. So when you're struggling with something, you think everyone, you see it everywhere around you. Like we talk about, like I go outside and see diaper commercials or on billboards. So just figuring out how can I close my mind off and have a quiet mind and go through this process without always thinking about and let this process consume me.
Yeah. Question on that. What do you think the difference is? Because it sounds like the bike riding was really healthy, but what's the difference when somebody's like running away from their problem, and like kind of being passive and burying it, and versus like finding an outlet to kind of just like go be yourself? What do you think the difference is?
Like anything else, you're just this guy that it's building up, building up, building up, building up. It's not going anywhere if you don't address it. It's just going to build up in the closet. It's built up in the closet. Eventually, that closet is going to get full. It's going to burst wide open, and you don't know where you're going to be or how you're going to feel when it bursts wide open. So that's one thing my wife and I talked about was, we have to release ourselves from certain things because if it builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, who knows how that's going to look once it blows and explodes. And we say all the time, like, if that happens, who will take care of the kid? Because we've exploded. So it's a matter of figuring out how to seep it out eventually, because eventually it's going to come out. But I think the best bet is let it come out on your terms. You bring it out. Don't wait till it builds up and it blows, explodes, and you have no control on how it's going to be after that. Once that thing explodes out because you held it in, you have no control on how it's going to react. You can yell, scream, whatever, whoever. But my advice would be to let it out on your terms so it can get out.
Yes, yes. So there's the piece right there. Is it does need to come out. We can't bury things because it's going to end up will explode. And then I do think like for men to do something physical, to get that dopamine hit, to get like I know if I'm stressed at work and I go into the gym and work out, I 99.9% of the time feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah, yes, 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 yes. That's very, very, very important. At the same time, I always find it works for you. Another thing I did was in meditation, having a quiet mind. So I think this is what my advice to, I do public speaking. And one thing I tell people all the time, you got to figure out what works for you. What I say works for me may be the complete opposite for you. So you have to really, really dig down and figure out what works for you, because what works for me may not work for you. So, what I never want anyone to do is do something that I told them to do or say it worked for me and they become disappointed because it didn't work. We're all different. We're all wired different. We're all built different. We're all different, and whatever those things are. So you have to really, really dig down and figure out, okay, I heard what Corey said. Let me try this. But if it doesn't work for me, let me try something else. Versus saying, let me tell you why. Because I started meditating years ago. And I remember my friends telling me that when they meditate, they have great business ideas. They have all this, all that. And I meditate. I'm like, I don't see none of this stuff. Like, I don't have any of these feelings. Like, this sucks. You know what I mean? But then when I realized that no, what I'm getting out of it is going to be totally different when someone else gets out of it, I was okay with it. So I've been meditating since 2008. It's been a while now. What I realized was what you're going to get out of it will be different. So I would advise men to, whatever it is you're going through, it's okay to try out and see what people do, because it's good advice. It could work, but at the same time, don't feel disappointed. Figure out what works for you and go from there.
So, Corey, what's your hope for the book IVF Playbook? The link will be in the show notes. So, anybody listening, if you know anybody going through that, go pick up that book, share it with them. And let's help support men who are going through this. And then with that being said, like if we were talking about the book again in a year or two, 5 years, what does it hope? What's your hope? The impact that it'll have?
Yeah, so I know the book is titled IVF Playbook for Men, but it's not just about IVF. It's about being a partner, being a husband, being a person, being a friend, and being a man of faith. So it covers all those things. I think I needed to title that way because it's a space that's not being tapped in, but it's not just for that. It's for men, just being a partner, being a provider, and being a dad. So it's for everybody.
Well, dude, great work on that. I mean, so important. Men need more voices speaking into their lives. Um, what has shifted for you? Like, talk to me about. Okay, you are going through this 2.5 year process. You're going through, miscarriages. You're going through just struggles, wrestles, this, that, and the other. Talk to me about the day your baby was born, little Corey Jr. Talk to me about this. What was the feeling you had?
What's ironic is like, I didn't really feel confident about he was going to even come until actually he actually came out. And then the first thing I saw, which is ironic, was his feet were like turned like flat, like towards his body. I was like, what the heck is going on here? What I realized was, he's been stuffed in a wound his entire life. He's scrunched up. So he's going to be okay. But that feeling when he came out was amazing. And just my wife and how amazing she was throughout the entire process from beginning to end, and it's like, you completed this by getting them here. And she was amazing, throughout the entire process. When I saw him, I was like, man, I didn't want to say like game over, but game definitely hit a mark of completion that I felt really, really good about.
Yes, just overwhelming, just gratitude of like how amazing. So then what was that first kind of month like? The did you notice anything different, like this connection with you and your wife, or you and yourself, or you and God? Like, is there, because it's like this is real now, right? Like this thing we've been working towards, like this is real, and you'd been waiting a long time. And so did you notice any shifts in any of those key relationships?
Oh yes, because prior to the marriage, it was just my wife and I would just hang out, whatever. But then we threw this great entity in the middle of it, and it's like it wasn't chaos to where it was like panic. It was chaos. Like okay, all right, because I mean, like Mike Tyson had the great saying. He says everyone has a plan to get punched in the face. So you put these plans together on how it's going to be once you get home, and you get home, it's like, oh my goodness, this is not nothing I planned. Like he is crying every single night. I mean, he's up all the time. So it was like trying to get your mind wrapped around like, okay, I'm not getting any sleep. You think, okay, we'll sleep. We'll put in the bed at this time. No, there's no sleep at all involved here. So it's trying to operate on a space of no sleep, but being grateful at the same time. And that's kind of how I was because of the process. Like I am tired as heck, but I'm glad I'm tired because what we took to get here, it is okay. So I think that I don't know if it's an IVF parent or anyone in general who has struggles with having kids. Those moments are tough, but you appreciate them because it was a struggle to get there. So anything that I, for a moment, thought was tough, it basically came with a smile. Like I'm glad I got this tough to experience, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you notice anything different in your relationship with God? Like, was there anything, that you maybe a deeper understanding of his fatherhood posture, or a deeper gratitude towards this miracle he allowed you to be a part of? I don't know. Did anything stick out to you?
I think that it just reaffirmed that he's never let me down. I think throughout the process, so you have these things happen in life, and then he comes through for you. But then every time something new happens, you turn to question, like, "Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at?" And that's what I did a little bit throughout the process. And I question God respectfully. I think that it's okay to question God. Jesus even said, "Lord, why are you forsaking me?" So I think it's okay to question respectfully. So while I was going through the process, I'm questioning like why we have done all these things or whatever case may be. And then once my son come, like God,
Yeah, so let me ask the question this way and kind of shift it. What if we were talking right now and it had been 5 years and you put this book out for men and you never had Corey Jr.? I mean, what would be different, right? Because there are going to be men who have the story that it just didn't happen, and they finally kind of just said, okay, we're done. So what do you think would be different right now if our conversation was you saying, hey, I wrote this book, didn't happen for us? I don't know, do you kind of like wrestle with or think about that sometimes?
the whole thing was like, just your question was, if it didn't happen for someone, like I said before, when we're going through the process, I think I had to come to the realization that if it doesn't happen for me, how can we still have great lives? So I think that people who don't have it, you just have to figure out how can you give God the glory and still be great, because there's got to be some message there, and He's never let you down, never let me down. So figuring out what that message is and where He wants to guide you and lead you, and it's holding on to your faith.
Yeah. So I believe that to be 100% true for you. And the reason why, and I want to talk about this is you started your all boys preschool in 2018, 2017. Okay. So you started this in 2017. So, and I'm going to make a big generalization, but on one hand, you're starting this school for boys that you don't have a boy to participate in, and you may never, right? I mean, and you knew that, right? So you started it even before you were married, right? And then you've got this school, and then you're stepping into and you made the comment, like, I'm sure there are some single moms who are sending their school, and you're like, some jackass out there had a kid, left, isn't around, his kid's here in my school, and I can't even have a kid. I mean, did those kinds of thoughts or wrestling ever come through for you?
Yeah, yeah, it was never lost on me once again that you go to work every single day. But what you have to realize that it's not about you. It's about the good you're going to do. So I always say to myself, just get out your own way and figure out what's God's way. And you pray that it's not my will, it's His will. So that's what I have to really lean into, because oftentimes we want to see things the way we want to see it. Like, for example, I wanted to have a 15-year NFL career. It didn't happen like that at all, because that's the way Corey wanted it. So believe that, you got to see what's God's will and just accept it, and know that He's never failed you. So just keep pushing through.
What does it mean to accept it, right? So you said, like, okay, this is a great example. I wanted a 15-year NFL career. That didn't happen. Now that could have spiraled you into being, just kind of piss away life, piss away opportunity. Yet you're starting all boys school, preschool, right? So what does it mean to accept God's will?
And it's not cliche at all. It just coming to grips with, like, okay, this is not going to happen for you. Let me stop putting so much energy in what I want, and then see what's right in front of me. So, of course, as you get, like, when I got cut, I was like, this is what I want. It's what I want. It's what I want. It's like, okay, it's not happening for you. All right, let's figure out what God wants for you, because it's going to be a lot easier, in relatively speaking, than pushing against. And when it comes to God, I think that people oftentimes think they can. And this is my thought process. I don't want to push on anybody else. But my thought was like, I'm going to change God's mind, convince God's will is already done. And what I had to understand was, no matter what my will was, His will is going to be done. So it's better to get in line and get in line with it. I think if you get in line with it, what happens is we get out of line and we start hitting our arms against the walls, because it's a perfect straight line. But we get out of line and start bumping into the walls, and hurting our arms, hurting our legs, because we're getting out of His will. So the quicker you understand that, like, being within the will and being lined up with the will of God, then I think the quicker you can at least try to find comfort in your situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Comfort, peace. Yeah, that's so good. So good. Okay, so this podcast is called Fatherhood Field Notes, and you're doing it, right? Just sharing your life's field notes with us. The mantra behind it is rebel and create. And the concept is, like, as men, we all want to fight against something, but not just to be destructive, like to create something beautiful in its place. So when you hear rebel and create, what's something you're rebelling against, and what do you hope to create in its place?
Rebelling against what I thought masculinity was. I thought masculinity was a football player who was strong, fast, and that was it. There's other things along with it. That's great. That's great masculinity, and I agree with that too. Being strong, fast, protector, all those things are defined under masculinity, and I agree with that. But there's other aspect of it too. Being open to speak your mind, being vulnerable, being able to express yourself. That comes a lot along with being fast and strong. Me playing football and playing at a professional level, those are great masculine skills. But what I found was there are other aspects of it too. It's not just one side. There are a few other things with it. So you can't just say, okay, I'm one or two. There's like 50 other things you can be that still describe masculinity. And one of those things are being able to express yourself, being able to speak, being able to be vulnerable to somebody. Luckily, it was my spouse. But if I wasn't vulnerable and told her how I actually felt, I think I would have bottled everything up. And it goes back to our earlier discussion about how when you bottle things up, a victim's going to explode. So being vulnerable and being able to express myself helped out a lot. And it's helped me out through my NFL career, my business career, and every aspect of my life.
Love that. So finding a lot of success, not just in the strength, but also the strength that comes from vulnerability, openness, being able to express yourself. I think that's huge. I mean, even now, I'm 42, and I think I find, like as my wife and I continue to step into new seasons, that it's still learning more depths of like, okay, reflecting, why did I get triggered and angry from that situation? Like, what's really causing this? And being able to like grow other than feeling stuck. And the only you'll be stuck if you don't like unpack it with somebody else, and talk about it with somebody else. Yeah. So good. So, one of the things that really stuck out to me from the Google form you filled out and I'd like to talk about is talking about success doesn't require sacrificing connection at home and men paying attention to that unchecked grind. Talk to me about that because I think it's so easy for us men to get kind of stuck in work mode.
Yeah. What I really, really appreciate about going to NFL was, they're really, 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 I'm saying amazingly time management because you only got so much time in practice to get it done. And there's $1 million on the line. So they're really efficient when it came to time. So the same thing with me. When I'm in my office, I'm only going to spend certain hours there. But when I'm there, I'm going to be very efficient because I want to get home to my family. So if I say I'm going to be off for 8 hours or 6 hours, I'm be so efficient in those 6 to 8 hours. I'll have to spend another 3 or 4 while I'm at home with my family. So my thing is being really efficient with my time. If you have 8 hours of work, be efficient with those 8 hours. Put the phone down, no scrolling, no listening. No, be very, very efficient because when I'm done, I'm done. But I've gotten a lot done in that period of time. But if I'm not efficient, now I'm at office. So I work, say I work from, say 7 a.m. to 4:30. I'm very efficient between that time frame. If I'm not, now I'm at the office at 5, 6, 7. Now I'm losing time with my son. So, from 7 to 4:30, I'm very, very efficient because we all have to be, luckily, if you have you got $1 billion in the bank, you have to work, but we all have to work. But it's being very efficient so I don't sacrifice my family by not being efficient.
Man, when you said the statement, if I'm at work at 5 or 6, I'm losing time with my son. I feel like us men, a lot of times we do the reverse. We're like, I need to be at work. I need to be spending time at work. There's like this conviction of I gotta do this work. I wonder if we could make a shift to have that same conviction and be like, I gotta be with my kid, right? Like I instead of I'm losing time at work, to shift it to I'm losing time with my family, um, to create that fire to be efficient at work.
Yeah, and I've heard it before. Like your child's not going to remember how much time you spent at work. They're going to remember how much time you spent with them. So my goal is to be very efficient while I'm at work, so I can get home to him and my family. Period. And I've always been like that. One thing I said to myself once I learned like how that works in NFL, I applied it to my own personal life. Is be very efficient. If you had 5 hours to do it, spend 5 hours doing it.
Do you have a hard stop? Like, do you have any rules that you live by now that you had Corey Jr. that you've implemented over the last 10 months?
Yeah, I'm not working past 4 o'clock, no matter what. I don't care what's going on. I'm not. Some days I go in later, but no matter what, I'm not working past 4 o'clock. My wife is with them all day and she does a great job. But my thought is I got to get so many hours in with this guy. And Lord be willing, I live till I'm 150. But I lost my dad when I was 9, so I feel like I'm on the clock sometimes. Like I got to pour as much as I can in him as possible. I don't know. Who knows? So let's make sure I pour as much as possible. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Man, that's so good. Okay, so do you have any transitions that help you transition from work mode to dad mode? So, say it's 4 o'clock, the alarm goes off. Is there anything that you do to be like, all right, peace, I'm out, be back tomorrow?
That's a natural like clock in my head. Like there's nothing external needed. It's natural. Like, all right, it's over. Time to go sing Hello, How Are You to my son. And we do a pledge also.
Oh, tell me this. What's this?
We do a pledge. I do it at my school, Mini Men Pledge. It's I'm gonna say it real fast. Today's gonna be a great day. I thank God for waking up each morning. I'm coming to school so I can learn, grow, and be the best leader God created me to be. I promise to do my best. I will listen and ask questions when I don't understand. I will treat everyone the way they want to be treated. I'm a peacemaker. I'm a champion. So we kind
Dang,
of go
I
through that
love
every
it. So
single
you say
day.
this with your kid every single day right now?
Every single day, every day. Yep, 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 yep.
Dude, homie can't even talk yet, and he's just getting this affirmation into his mind, which I think is so important. As dads, like, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter how much time you have, it doesn't matter where you live. Every single one of us could do what Corey just said. Come up with an affirmation that is a family value and speak it every day, because that's the power, right? Like Genesis, heaven and earth was all created with the word. Right now, I mean, to me, the point is, like, our words create life or death. And so when you do that very thing with your son, you are speaking life into him and into yourself. Corey, since you're talking about investing in your kid, your dad was there till you were 9. What are the key 3 to 5 traits or things you want your son to know? Say you're at his high school graduation and he's like, or he's leaving to go to college or whatever. What are the things that you want to be true that you passed from yourself to him?
Go back to there's no such thing as a
Okay,
free
yeah,
lunch. Yeah, that's number one. Try to figure it out before you ask for help.
I like that. Yeah, tell me, why is that important?
Sorry, go ahead. Oftentimes, and I've seen it trend more now into society that for handouts. And what I always thought was if you try, 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 and try, you're building skills up for yourself. But if someone hands out to you, what kind of skills are you building up? So if he keeps trying, 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 doesn't get it, he spent time building a skill up. So I want him to do that. If he asked for help the first time, what did he learn from it? What did he build from it? So I want him to try, try, try first, then ask for help. Because it's okay to ask for help. It's totally okay. But I want him to try first. And that's probably like the main thing is to try first, ask for help.
Dude, that's a freaking nugget. That's a nugget. And every man, if the only thing we ever do from this podcast ever is, as dads, do that one thing. Teach your kid to try to figure it out before they ask for help, but tell them it's okay to ask for help. Dude, come back and look at our world in 100 years. Dude, it'll look better. It'll look better. Okay, so there's no free lunch. Try to figure it out before you ask for help. What else?
My dad taught me in football and in life, you get knocked down, you got to get back up. You know, there's a lot of times I got knocked down in football, but I realized, okay, get back up and play the next play. So definitely, those things. And I think the number one important thing I want to know is call your mother every day and tell her you love her. It's so important for me, my son, to have a great relationship with his mother because she has sacrificed so much for him. And I want him to appreciate that and not take it for granted. And if he can get those things early with his mom, I think they can carry on for life also. A few things. And anyone listening, I will sell those to you for $9.99. You buy my book. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm
Corey,
totally
when you
joking.
think about your faith, and we live in this world where a lot of it's like, believe whatever you want to believe, and what's your truth, and all this horse shit. What is important to you? Because I also believe that sometimes as Christians we can shove things down our kids' throat legalistically. But if you were to have a conversation with your son when he's 30 years old and he's kind of like left the house, started his career, he's in life, he's a man now, reflecting on his growing up. What are the faith components that you will want him to have and understand that you passed one of the most important things to your son?
That's a very, very good question. I would say definitely just knowing that, that you tried when it comes to your faith, that you didn't we go back to our earlier conversation about leading to God's will, that you asked what's God's will first before you went out there and tried it. That's where I think, if I had to say, that's probably one of the biggest things that I struggled with early on was that. So my goal is I'm not going to be a helicopter parent. I'm not going to be a bulldozer parent. My son has to go through things. My son has to figure out things. My son has to have struggles. But there are certain things that I want him to be ahead of and not even think about. And one thing is living in God's will. That if he can go through life understanding that it's your God's will, not yours, any of the trials he go through, I think he'll be okay. So that's probably the main thing is me trying to teach him how to live in God's will and not your will.
Hmm. Yeah, understanding that you are not God of the universe, that there is one, right? And you can turn on him.
Yeah, he'll find out really quickly. He'll find out real quickly. Like it's not about you, buddy. It's a whole lot of you out here. It's only one God.
Man, Corey, so good. All right, Corey, any last thoughts or stories or anything that we missed or anything resonating in your mind, heart, soul that you would want to share with any dads out there before we wrap up our last couple questions?
And no, it's been great. And that's what I like about podcasts like this or anything else where you can have real organic conversations. And it's not about the ratings of, let me say, what's trending right now, what's buzzing. And we have so much of that in our society now where it's like, do I believe it's not? I don't know, but it's trending and I can get likes for doing this. I like having these real conversations because it's actually how we actually feel and not what's going to get trending in likes. So I keep doing what you're doing, brother, and keep having this podcast where it's authentic. And I think that the world's going to change eventually where it's not about what's trending, it's about what's right, what feels good, and what makes sense. We're losing that right now, losing sense, common sense.
Yes. So with that, common sense, that's life. So if you could think right now, just pause for a second and think, there's a dad right now driving in his car on a run, maybe cycling, and he's listening to this podcast. What would you speak directly to him to speak life into his world? What would you say to him?
I would say meditate and find out what your journey is. I read a great book called The Alchemist, and it talks about your journey. So figure out what's your journey, and don't compare yourself to social media or what else out there. Figure out what's best for you. And I've talked to so many people that compare their lives, I compare their success to what's online. So you gotta figure out what's best for you in your journey. So any dad out there, you gotta focus and see what's best for you and what's gonna make you happy, and not what society says is happy or what's trending again. Figure out your journey. And I mean, I'm not getting any money from Pablo who wrote the book, The Alchemist, but it's my favorite book. Let's talk about the journey and figure out what's your journey.
Mm. So good. Corey, where can people find you, learn more about you? Yeah, where can they find information on you?
Well, this is a time where I do the shameless plug, the necessary evil. So, just Google CoreyParchman.com. You can find information, the IVF Playbook for Men. You can find a total information from, the Instagram says the same thing. The social media is all IVF Playbook for Men. The website is ivfplaybookformen.org. You can find me there.
Love it. Corey, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for the work you've done. Thank you for the investment you've made into men today and into the future generations through the preschool. I've so enjoyed our conversation. Love the work you're doing, and I hope our paths cross again in the future.
So thank you for having me, and keep doing what you're doing, brother. You're doing a great job out here. All right.
All right. Until next time. What an incredible conversation. I mean, I love, love, love talking to men about fatherhood. And I'm always walking away with something where it's like, light bulb, this matters. Like, I knew this mattered, but I want to implement this into my life and into the language as I speak to my kids. And that thing is this idea of teaching my son and daughters to, yes, ask for help, but first try to solve the problem yourself because of the skills that it will give you. And so I just absolutely loved that. And then, the story he shared of his dad ripping up that piece of paper for the free lunch, I think is just this moment. So it's like, think about this, guys. What are those small beliefs that we may not even be paying attention to, that, that maybe were not really true to us, like, that we want to implement in our home? So just think about, you just pay attention the next couple weeks as you're going through life with your family. Is there anything you're verbally or non-verbally communicating that you actually don't want to live by? And if so, grab that, nip it in the bud, and make a shift there. Love it. All right. If these conversations are helpful, please write a review, share this with a friend. Even if you don't, just shoot a text to a friend. Dads don't hear how important they are enough. Just shoot a text like, hey, so-and-so, I saw you at the school. I saw you at this. Like, you're doing a great job coaching. Or I love the way I saw you handle that situation with your kid. Like, us guys, we don't need kumbaya tea every morning together, but we do need a pat on the back. We do need to get noticed. So I know I want that. I'm sure you want that. So how can you and I give that to someone else? All right, dudes. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Do not be like everybody else. Be yourself. That is who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.